What's the craziest karma you've seen hit a golden child who thought rules don't apply to them? Story 1. I worked under Noah, the founder's son, our company's laminated golden child. He rolled in at 11, ideated in beanbags, and spent like Monopoly money because investors love velocity. Meanwhile, we were rationing printer paper. He'd borrow interns' cards for team lunches that somehow included bottle service. In Q2, finance flagged a mysterious 47K community engagement line. Noah smirked and said it was for a pop-up activation. Our CFO, quiet older woman named Trina, asked for receipts. Noah forwarded a blurry PDF of a marketing vendor with a Gmail address. The founder laughed it off. Let the kid run. 2 weeks later, we had an all-hands to celebrate a new funding round. Noah swaggered on stage in designer sneakers to announce a culture bonus, then told us to be scrappy about expenses. That same afternoon, the color printer jammed and spat out a backlog of jobs, including a 26-page itinerary, flights to Ibiza, a villa booking, bottle menus, and a yacht contract, dates lining up perfectly with the pop-up activation. The job metadata had the sender's name in the footer. It was Noah's. Someone put the stack in Trina's mailbox. The next morning, she walked into our glass conference room with a banker's box and the dead-eyed calm of a surgeon. With her was an outside auditor. By lunch, they'd pulled corporate card logs, Uber receipts, and the vendor's Gmail. Noah's alt easily tied to his Apple ID. A Venmo trail to his DJ friend read, "For brand synergy, glasses, headphones." Noah tried to bluff. Everyone expends stuff. Culture. Trina plugged a USB into the projector at an emergency all-hands and clicked through screenshots. Silence. Then she clicked one last slide. Board minutes naming her interim CEO. The twist wasn't just that he got fired. The founder, Noah's dad, was on Zoom in a small window, eyes red. He said nothing while the board voted. After the call ended, he walked out of his office with his coat over his arm. He'd resigned too. Trina looked around and said evenly, "New rule. Rules apply." Noah stood there, cheeks shiny, waiting for his dad to save him. But the only person who walked him to the elevator was the security guard he'd once called delivery.
Story 2. I'm 17. My mom calls my sister the sunshine and me resilient, which is parent code for invisible. After the divorce, Mom moved us into Nana's house while Dad couch surfed and built his landscaping business back from scratch. In court, Mom wore pastels and cried. She told everyone Dad was unstable. The judge nodded. The guardian ad litem smiled at my sister. Golden child rays everywhere. Mom's new boyfriend, Aaron, coached my sister before every hearing. Remember when Dad forgot your recital? He didn't. He worked late after Mom texted him a wrong time. They said I was confused and parentified. I started recording things, not for drama, just so I'd stop feeling crazy. On the last day, the courtroom smelled like paper and old coffee. Mom brought a scrapbook of Dad's absence. Dad brought receipts, orthodontist payments, exact. The judge seemed bored. The GAL asked my sister what home felt safer. She whispered, Mom's. Then it was my turn. I thought I'd croak. Instead, I plugged in my phone. I played a clip from our kitchen, Aaron feeding lines to my sister. You can hear the microwave. You can hear Mom say, if you want the car, you have to say you're scared of him. You can hear my sister ask if she has to cry. Mom says, tears help. The courtroom changed temperature. Mom stood up, stammering. The GAL sank into his chair. Dad just closed his eyes. The judge asked me if I felt unsafe with either parent. I said, I feel unsafe when the truth keeps moving. The twist came 2 weeks later. We got a written order, 50-50 custody, therapy for all, Aaron barred from coaching contact. But the real shock? My sister knocked on Dad's apartment door with her duffel. She'd watched the video again and couldn't stand the echo. "I don't want the car," she said. "I want someone to ask me what I think when there's no audience." The judge's signature changed our schedule, but my sister, Mom's sunshine, changed the weather.
Story 3. I'm the ex. We were 5 years together. Then Dylan met Kayla, his mom's favorite. She's finally bringing class to our family. His mother told me at Thanksgiving, like I was dollar store decor. I wished them well from a safe digital distance. Months later, I got a DM from a stranger with a link to Kayla's private Finsta. It was mostly outfits and latte art, and then a series of close friends clips. A hand with Dylan's watch, then a different hand with a tattoo I recognized from the bartender at their engagement party. Time-stamped, captions like, "Rules are a suggestion." I didn't respond. Not my circus. On the wedding day, my phone buzzed. The stranger again. "You should at least make sure he knows." I was typing and deleting when my best friend, the venue's AV coordinator, texted, "You won't believe the playlist." I went, because apparently I'm a moth. The reception was fairy lights and a golden neon "Till Death." Dylan's mom gave a toast about Kayla civilizing her son. Then Kayla took the mic and joked about being a rule breaker. Everyone laughed. The slideshow began. Childhood pics, college, engagement shoot. Then the screen flickered. Instead of baby photos, we saw a live photo. Kayla kissing that bartender in the back hallway of the rehearsal venue last night. You could hear the little shutter sound. Next slide, the Finsta clip with Dylan's watch on the table and a second glass of champagne. The room went silent except for the song that, unfortunately, kept playing, "Love Story." Kayla shrieked at the AV guy. He held up his hands. The groom's sister walked to the stage, picked up the clicker, and said calmly, "I airdropped those. Kayla, you blocked me, but I learned." She looked at Dylan. "You can still choose this, but now you know what you're choosing." The twist wasn't the broken wedding. Dylan's mom grabbed the mic and started to scold his sister for ruining a woman's special day. Sister handed her a printed email. Mom had known for a week. Kayla had confessed, called it a mistake, and Mom told her to manage optics. Dylan took off his ring and put it in his mother's palm. "You're amazing at optics. Terrible at love." He left through the kitchen. Kayla followed, barefoot. The neon "Till Death" buzzed and popped like a bad punchline.
Story 4. I rent the small blue house on the corner. Our HOA president, Savannah, lives in the renovated farmhouse with a wraparound porch and a sense of personal monarchy. Late fees evaporated for her cousins. Everyone else paid fines for unsightly bins and improper curtains. She'd post sanctimonious next-door essays about standards, signing them Tilda S. Her mother chaired the architectural committee. The board was basically a family reunion. My sin? A tomato trellis 2 inches over the fence height. I got 3 tickets in a month. When I asked for the bylaws, Savannah sent a PDF that looked like it had been photocopied since the 90s. Pages missing, no signatures. I paid, cheaper than time, until my neighbor, a retired bank teller with a glittery visor, said, "Honey, where are these checks going?" We pulled our letters. Same P.O. box. I asked for a financial statement, required annually. Savannah said, "We are volunteers, be grateful." The visor neighbor and I put flyers under doors and got a quorum for an audit. The meeting was in the clubhouse with the squeaky AC. Savannah arrived late, wearing a white blazer and the facial expression of a customs agent. We asked for bank records. She laughed. Our bylaws attorney, another neighbor, quiet guy who grills on Fridays, slid a printed copy of state statute across the table. You're legally obligated. That's when the visor neighbor opened a folder. She'd followed the routing numbers on our canceled checks. There were deposits into an account named Savannah Con Events, LLC. Memo lines matched our fines. Late bin, $50. Weeds, $25. A Venmo from Savannah to her mom said, board brunch, THX. Savannah tried to gavel us into silence. The quiet attorney called the non-emergency police line. 2 officers came and stood in the back, hands clasped. The room smelled like burnt coffee and reckoning. A week later, we learned the twist. Not only had Savannah been skimming, she'd filed liens on 3 elderly neighbors and sold one to a debt buyer. That neighbor? The visor's widowed sister. The county DA filed charges. Savannah's mother resigned on Facebook with a paragraph about cancel culture. The new board, half of them people Savannah had fined, voted to abolish decorative curtain rules. My Trillis stayed. Savannah drove by once, slow, in a car without plates, and looked like she wanted to write a ticket to the sky. The visor neighbor waved with all 5 fingers.
Story 5. I was Harold's poker buddy. Coffee, low stakes, a lot of muttering about the Yankees. His family treated him like furniture. His son, Brandon, was the golden child with the jawline and the Instagram of artisanal ice cubes. His daughter, Mia, got maybe next year, every year. When Harold got sick, Brandon swooped in with a clipboard and words like optics and legacy. He posted a photo of himself caring for Dad while the hospice nurse lifted Harold alone. At the funeral, the church smelled like lilies and damp coats. Brandon wore a tux like it was a brand deal. He handed out programs he designed with his own face on the back. After the last hymn, the attorney invited immediate family and any named beneficiaries to a small room. I stood to leave. The attorney said, "You too." A TV flickered on. Harold, thinner but still himself, sat in his chair wearing the Mets cap Brandon forbade for aesthetic. He looked straight into the lens. "If you're watching this, I'm dead, and Brandon is telling people he's the executor." Brandon smiled like a politician. The attorney coughed. "He isn't," Harold continued. "We changed that the day he signed my checks to pay his crypto tax bill." Mia's mouth fell open. Brandon's knuckles went white. The attorney slid printed statements. Power of attorney transactions, a wire to Brandon Growth LLC. Brandon said it was reimbursement. Harold's video shook his head. "Son, rules you dodge have a way of attaching the bus to your stop anyway." Then came the twist. Harold left the house to Mia, the savings to the hospice nurse's scholarship fund, and $1,000 to Brandon with a condition. He had to complete 500 hours of community service at the same nursing home where he refused to visit, verified by the director, before he could touch a separate trust that would match Mia's inheritance. The trust had a timer. If unclaimed in 3 years, it would roll to the fund in Harold's nurse's name. Brandon sputtered about contesting. The attorney nodded. "By all means. But discovery will include those POA transfers." Mia took the keys and cried into my jacket. On the way out, the hospice director hugged her, then looked at Brandon and said, quietly, "See you Monday?" He didn't answer. The next day, his Instagram went dark. A week later, I saw him in the nursing home garden pulling weeds by the roots, like something finally held him to the earth.
Story 6. I was the night tech in our university's neuro lab, the person who actually babysat the mice, calibrated the rigs, and cleaned the coffee machine nobody admitted using. The chair's nephew, Preston, was the golden child. He wore a lanyard thick with conference badges and said things like pipelines over pipettes. His dissertation was a miracle of speed, 2 years to produce results that take most people 5. He kept telling me to just batch the controls so he could hit a grant deadline. Controls don't batch. Biology doesn't care about your poster printing slot. He booked a prime talk at the International Neuromethods Conference. My PI begged me to go for moral support, which meant to swap batteries and carry backup dongles. The ballroom was $100 chairs and a stage lit like a TED Talk. Preston strutted up with slides full of fluorescent brain maps and p-values that behaved themselves too well. He name-dropped the chair, his uncle, between jokes about old-school wet lab folks. Laughter. Halfway through, a woman from a rival lab raised her hand. "Can you speak to your negative controls on the AAV batch? We had a contamination problem last spring." Preston blinked. He clicked to a slide of gel bands labeled N-Control, sham, and vector only. Those are my gels, but not exactly. He'd cropped out the faint ghost bands, and worse, he'd relabeled a pilot I'd junked months ago as Replicate 5. I felt my stomach go cold and hot. A small detail on the slide saved me. The corner still had my naming scheme, a string of letters that looked random unless you knew. I had stopped writing CTRL because Preston kept grabbing the wrong boxes, so I started encoding the date with a Caesar cipher and hiding my initials as every third character. It was petty, and now it was proof. I stood up. "Could you zoom in on the corner?" I said, my voice doing that wobble I hate. Preston tried to laugh it off. The moderator leaned in. Zoom. The cipher string sat there like a watermark, with my initials spelled out if you counted threes. I explained briefly how that pilot had been contaminated with a viral lot later destroyed. You could have heard the fluorescent tubes hum. 2 people in the third row left. They were from the journal Preston had a provisional accept with. After the session, the research integrity officer, who had quietly sat in back because of a different case, asked to see lab notebooks. Preston's uncle made panicked calls in the hallway. Within a month, the paper was retracted pre-publication. The conference talk was annotated with a red banner. The grant office put the lab on audit. The twist wasn't that Preston lost his funding. It was the email he CC'd me on the day he withdrew from the program. He'd written a long apology to the lab and closed with, "It doesn't make sense that rules apply to some people and not others." Our PI replied, "They did apply to you, Preston. You just never tested them until they broke." He never picked up his badges from the office. I hung them on the coffee machine as a reminder that even laminated privilege curls when heat hits it.
Story 7. I was the left back on our U17 girls team, which meant I did the running while the coach's daughter, Sky, collected goals and compliments. Our coach, her dad, made lineups on a whiteboard that looked carved in stone. Sky had a custom headband and a habit of scolding refs for ruining her development. She missed practices for elite clinics and arrived on game day to take every free kick. If someone else scored, she'd jog back shaking her head as if physics had failed her. The regional final was at a stadium big enough to make our parents whisper. Weather was weird. Thunder rolled in, then back out again. Delayed kickoff. We stretched in the tunnel while Sky posted a story, "Last step to nationals," kissy emoji, hashtag main character. The ref crew checked rosters and IDs like TSA. Coach waved them along. He knew them from years of tournaments. One ref, new guy with a buzz cut, took an extra beat on Sky's card. "We'll re-verify after the anthem," he said. We were up 1-0 when the storm finally broke over us. Sheets of rain turning the turf into a mirror. Play stopped. We huddled under the awning, steam coming off our shoulders. That's when an EMT came over. Sky was cramping hard, lying on a bench like a Renaissance painting of suffering. He asked basic questions: allergies, meds, birth date. She recited it, and he repeated it to write it down. 2 of us looked at each other. It wasn't the date on the roster. Not off by a day. Off by a year. Rules say rosters are gospel. The refs pulled Coach into a room. He came out pale. "It's a technicality," he said, shrugging too big. "We'll appeal later." The head ref shook his head. Sky was ineligible. Any minute she'd be out, and any goals she'd scored this season could get scrubbed. Coach tried to argue precedent. The ref pointed up at the lightning detector flashing red. "We don't do precedent in storms," he said.
We had to finish with 10 because the bench had been managed for optics, not contingencies. 1-1 after their penalty. It felt like justice was going to be the kind that punishes everyone. Then our quiet striker Bea, who'd spent half the season benched so Sky could play 9, picked a pocket at midfield and chipped their keeper from 30 yards. The ball flew under the rain like a coin tossed back by the sky. We won 2-1. In the handshake line, Sky tried to step in front with her camera. The ref gently put a hand out. Not on the field, number 9. Not today. After the medals, our captain took off the armband and handed it to Bea. No speech, just a nod. The twist? When Nationals paperwork came, there was a new signature on the coach line. Our coach had resigned for personal reasons. The club hired Bea's mom, a former college player who always brought sliced oranges. On our first day, she said, "My only system is this. We earn minutes." Sky came to practice late, headband on. For once, she started on the bench and stayed there until the last 20, when she finally made the run she'd expected rules to make for her.
Story 8. Our family runs a seafood place on the harbor. Nets on the walls, paper on the tables, and a chalkboard tide chart my grandfather updates like a ritual. My cousin Luca, the golden child, came home from culinary school with tweezers and mood lighting. He hated the chalkboard. "We're not serving weather," he said. He convinced my aunt to let him lead a rebrand with influencer nights and a secret menu that mostly involved truffle oil. He also decided thermometers were vibes, and if it smells fine, it's fine. I'm the sous chef and the one who actually writes the HACCP logs. I got called negative energy a lot. Soft opening night for his new concept, a DJ by the oyster bar, candles you could smell in the parking lot, raw scallop crudo that arrived on plates warm to the touch. I double-checked the walk-in. 2 tubs of monkfish were date-stamped for tomorrow because Luca had swapped labels to make par look better. The health inspector showed up, not random. Our old pound owner tipped them after Luca tried to haggle him like this was a street market and not a 40-year handshake. The inspector went through the motions politely until he opened the tomorrow tub and exhaled. He held the probe thermometer like an oracle rod. Luca tried to charm him. "We move product fast." The inspector read the log temperatures. They looked perfect. Too perfect. Every line ended in .0 or .5. Luca's edit fingerprints. He grinned like a magician after palming a coin. My grandmother, Nana to everyone, owner on paper and in soul, shuffled in from her corner table with her ledger. She doesn't read email, but she writes everything by hand, including fish deliveries and cash paid to the dayboats. She laid the ledger open to the inspector. Yesterday's delivery had been delayed. The monkfish arrived at 2 p.m., not 9 a.m. like Luca's logs claimed. The inspector looked at Luca. "You'd need a time machine," he said softly. They shut us down on the spot. Pink notice on the door, DJ packing quietly. Luca paced and texted and promised PR damage control. Nana asked me to walk her to the office. She pulled out an envelope from under a stack of old menus. Inside was a notarized transfer she'd been carrying for months. Because she's not dramatic, she's prepared. She handed it to the inspector to witness, then to Javier, our dishwasher, who's been with us since I was in middle school. "He watches the ice like a miser," he said. "He knows the tide." The twist landed like a bell. Luca wasn't just demoted, he was replaced. Javier took the keys with hands that smelled like lemon and steel. We reopened a month later with a chalkboard backup and a thermometer hanging like a sacred charm by the line. Influencers still came, but they posted about the story instead of the vibe. Luca? He does pop-ups now. His food is pretty. People ask why he left the harbor. He says creative differences. We know the difference. The ocean has rules. He thought he could play it around them.
Story 9. Our church used to be a shoebox with hymnals. Then Pastor Reed's son, Chase, came back from a media degree with a fog machine and a logo. He turned the food pantry into community activation, which looked great on Instagram and meant the rice was hard to find behind ring lights. Donations tripled. So did Chase's wardrobe. He called the volunteers legacy assets. He borrowed the pantry van most Thursdays to meet partners. I'm a bookkeeper by trade and a volunteer on Saturdays.
which means I stacked cans and reconciled receipts while Chase filmed B-roll of his sneakers stepping over crates. The gas card kept maxing out. Invoices for bulk beans went unpaid because cash flow. Meanwhile, a video of Chase crying in a truck about the weight of service hit 6 figures. People mailed checks. We scheduled a donor appreciation night in the fellowship hall. Folding chairs, sheet cake, a banner that tried too hard. Chase had a slideshow ready. Kids in faraway places, our logo on top. Before he plugged in the HDMI, Miss Dolores runs the pantry line like an air traffic controller, tapped the mic. Before we clap, I want to read some mail. She opened letters from 2 of the mission partners featured in the slides. Both said thanks for considering support. Neither had received a dime. The room got still. Chase jumped in. Funds are allocated, accounting lag. He looked at me like I was supposed to nod. I didn't. I opened the ledger and read the van's GPS logs. Turns out the old deacon who installed it forgot to tell the new guard. Thursdays, the van was at a downtown club's valet. Gas charges tracked perfectly with partnership mixers that began after 10 p.m. He tried to laugh it off. Evangelism can happen anywhere. Miss Dolores lifted a Ziploc bag from under the podium. Inside was a stack of gift cards donated for pantry clients, each with little hearts drawn on them by Sunday school kids. She'd recorded balances. Half were 0. The statements showed they'd bought LED panels and a Fog Juice subscription. The twist arrived without fog. The head deacon stood up, took the mic, and said, "Effective immediately, we're freezing the media budget, moving the pantry under its own 501c3, and asking Pastor to take a sabbatical while we audit." Pastor Reed started to speak. He looked at his son, then at Miss Dolores, who had her hand on the bag of empty cards like it was a baby. He took off his mic and placed it on the lectern. Next Sunday, we met in the parking lot with folding tables and a coffee urn that used to live in the youth room. No fog, no logo. The line for the pantry wrapped around the building, and when Chase drove by in the van, people didn't point. They kept loading bags. He idled a minute like a kid outside a party, then rolled on. Months later, the new nonprofit's first newsletter listed every dollar and where it went. The last line said, "We don't film the line anymore. We stand in it together."
Story 10. I mod for a mid-tier esports league. A lot of spreadsheets, a little detective work, plenty of teenagers who think lying is a speed run. Our resident golden child was a streamer named Razor, nephew of the org owner. Hair like gravity was optional. He talked like he paid rent in the spotlight. He skipped scrim reviews, blamed lag for every miss, and called the anti-cheat training wheels for the untalented. He DM'd me to unstick rules that applied to everyone else. The finale was a charity invitational. Big sponsors, a live overlay, donations pouring in with cute messages. We rolled out a new anti-cheat module that surfaced active drivers mid-match in a back-end panel only mods saw. 10 minutes into Razor's semifinal, the panel flashed a driver with a name I recognized from a ban wave last year. Not the cheating software itself, but the helper it used to hide. It should have been impossible. My stomach did the roller coaster drop. Protocol says pause, verify, then act. I paused the match for server desync and pinged the tech team. Meanwhile, Razor vamped on stream about clowns behind the curtain. Chat spammed clown emojis. In the back end, the module grabbed a hash and for the first time, a path, external USB. We pushed a system message, "Please remove external devices." Razor laughed into his mic. "Can't play without my custom keypad, bro." He yanked it, the driver winked out, his crosshair suddenly looked mortal. I was bracing for the ban backlash when I got a DM from an account named Little Jet. It was Razor's little brother. He'd been in our Discord for months, mostly to drop wholesome memes. He wrote, "It was me. He told me to set it up because the finals were for charity, and if he won, it was for a good cause. I'm sorry. Don't ban him, ban me." He sent a photo of a thumb drive shaped like a lightning bolt. I stared at the message longer than I should have. The easy thing would be to torch them both live and rake the views.
I pinged the tech team, attached the driver logs with machine timestamps and install records. They showed the truth. The driver had been installed on Razer's machine a week ago, long before the brother's message. Same Windows user, same sloppy desktop path, C calling games, aim helper, try 3. We unpaused and finished the map with Razer struggling, which is to say, playing. After the match, I announced the ban in chat, matter of fact, with hashed evidence and without naming the brother. The owner tried to push back until I sent him the sponsor clause about integrity. He went quiet. Razer's stream cut to a BRB and never came back. The emotional punch came in private. Little Jet sent another DM, no emojis this time. He wrote, "He said I ruined his life. Did I?" I told him the truth. His brother had given him a bad errand and called it love. A week later, the charity posted the final number, higher than expected because the story got people to donate out of spite and hope. Razer's slot in the league went to a kid who played on a laptop with half the keys shiny. He sent me a thank you note that said, "I don't need training wheels. I need a fair road."
Story 11. I'm the registrar at a mid-sized art museum, the person who knows where every painting slept last night and what temperature it dreamed at. Our board chair's son, Adrian, is the golden child of the local art scene. Big scarves, bigger statements. He opened a boutique gallery that moved emergent masters faster than we could mount wall labels. He'd breeze in, ignore sign-in sheets, and angle for loans without condition reports, calling provenance a narrative we co-create. For our Centennial Gala, Adrian offered a lost mid-period Martello, market value high enough to make donors sip their champagne more carefully. The paperwork was suspiciously neat. 3 owners in a century, all conveniently deceased. The crate arrived with new screws and a faint scent of varnish. Our conservator asked for a week to test. The board chair, Adrian's mother, pressed for speed. "Let the boy have his moment," she said. We did a quick UV pass anyway. Under the blue lamp, a shape surfaced, a ghost signature faintly reading AM in the wrong corner. My stomach tipped. Martello never signed that side. I documented, logged, and quietly asked for high-res pre- and post-cleaning photos. Adrian sent us a Dropbox with watermarked glamour shots. He joked about trade secrets. Gala night. 300 people, 1 rented string quartet, the Martello lit like a miracle. Adrian took the stage to talk about resurrecting voices. Mid-speech, someone's phone rang with that xylophone tone. Whispered apologies, a ripple of embarrassed laughter. The conservator squeezed my arm and tilted her own phone. A teenager on TikTok had just posted a time-lapse of recreating a Martello for my boyfriend's show, captioned with a painter emoji, audio sped up, comments locked. The boyfriend's hand, same ring as Adrian's, helped stretch the canvas. The UV shot from our test flashed in the video, signature included, like a magician forgetting to ditch the coin. I felt my spine turn to ice. I walked to the AV booth and asked the tech to pull up the video. He was already there. The board chair saw her son on the screen before the crowd did. She lifted her glass and took a long, shaking sip, then nodded at me. "Play it." We stopped Adrian mid-sentence and projected the time-lapse next to the painting. No narration, just the image of a Martello being born in a loft with a plant wall. The room's temperature changed. Adrian tried to pivot. Performance art, interrogation of authenticity. The donors didn't subscribe. Our director stepped to the mic and with a voice that sounded like a scalpel, apologized for the interruption and announced an immediate removal pending investigation. The twist found us on Monday. Our inventory RFID reader pinged a tag that didn't belong in that gallery. Inside the fake stretcher, lodged near a crossbar, we found one of our storeroom micro tags, missing since a minor theft scare a year prior. Someone had worked in our space. The board chair resigned, and Adrian's gallery shuttered. Months later, a small package arrived with our missing micro tags, and no note. We archived Martello forgery in our teaching collection. When I wheel students in, I tell them, truth fluoresces. Sometimes you just have to hit it with the right light.
Story 12. I've been the superintendent of a pre-war building long enough to know its moods. The pipes complain before they burst. The radiators sing when they're happy. The new owner's daughter, Celeste, moved into the penthouse like a coronation. Tiny dog, oversized sunglasses, a laugh you could hear through plaster. She called me Superman and meant it like a tip. The lease riders said no short-term rentals, no rooftop structures, no water features. Celeste decided the roof needed energy. She had a mineral soak tub craned up there at dawn while the city still yawned. She also launched experiences on a rental app. Skyline soaks, secret DJ sets, curated sunsets. Strangers in velvet ropes followed chalk arrows to my freight elevator. Tenants complained about noise, smoke, strangers jiggling their doorknobs at 3 a.m. I kept a notebook of dates and license plates and logged every ticket I wrote. Celeste filmed herself ignoring them. We bend, we don't break. Then we had the week of brown water. Tenants' taps ran like tea. I traced the line and found an illegal hookup feeding her rooftop tub from a main that dated back to a time when horses had parking spots. I called the city. Celeste breezed into the basement, live on stream, asking her followers if bureaucrats ever tried to kill your vibe. I pointed at the valve. Kill the feed or the feed kills us. The city council scheduled a hearing. Celeste made it fashion. White suit, glossy binder, slideshow of economic activation and 5-star reviews. I brought binders too. Photos of the illegal pump, logbooks, the lease rider, water test results. Tenants showed up with strollers and tired eyes. Mid-hearing, alarms started wailing. My phone lit up with a flood sensor alert. The chair paused. "Mr. Alvarez?" We all watched a live feed from our roof cam. Insurance demanded it after a past deck fiasco. The tub's intake hose had slipped. The pump ran dry, overheated, cracked. Water blossomed through the ceiling of the penthouse, then the 12th floor, then the 11th floor. The tub lurched and tipped. The tiny dog barked at the sky like it could put the water back. Celeste's stream cut to a buffering wheel. The council chair didn't gavel. She just looked at Celeste with a pity that felt heavier than rage. Insurance denied the claim. Unpermitted modification. Fines landed like hail. The building's owner, her father, put the property up for sale to cover costs. The tenants did something Celeste never planned for. They organized. With a land trust and a grant from a housing nonprofit, they bought the building. On closing day, they asked me to cut the ribbon. I cried into my sensible jacket. The twist? 2 months later, I got a rental application from Celeste. She wrote, "Looking for a quiet place, no parties." The board, my tenants, voted. We approved her for a ground floor studio with ironclad house rules. She moved in without stories, said hello in the hall, and used the laundry during her slot. The first time she called me was to ask how to turn down a radiator. I walked her through the valve. She listened. When our new roof garden opened, no tubs, just tomatoes, she came up with a watering can and a sincere apology that nobody live-streamed. Gravity finds everyone. Sometimes it brings you home.
Story 13. I'm the district IT admin, the gremlin behind the locked door with the old server rack and the new coffee. The school board president's son, Camden, was our golden child, quarterback, future leader, the kind of kid who got a congratulatory tweet for breathing. Teachers who gave him B's got feedback. The principal called his parents by their first names. His GPA glowed like a lighthouse. In February, the grade server logged a rash of midnight connections from a device that didn't match any staff machine. Weird MAC address. Too clean. At 2:13 a.m., 3 classes, AP Chem, English Lit, Calc, saw outlier grade edits, always by proxy admin. Our system stamps a device fingerprint on every change. This one said Helios 01. Cute. I could have pulled logs and written a report. I did, but I also knew what would happen. Meeting, blame the software, pat Camden on the head, boys will be boys. So I set a honey token, a fake scholarship eligibility spreadsheet in a private share that would ping me and my boss and the superintendent's compliance email if opened. The night before the award assembly, Helios 01 opened it. It wasn't a spreadsheet, it was a plain page that said,
This device is trespassing. It also silently turned on the front-facing camera for one frame. Legal? Our consent banner covers it. I prayed I wasn't wrong. The still was enough. Camden at his desk, hoodie up, a USB key with a little sun logo in the port. He'd socially engineered a sub to click a link months ago and saved the privilege. The next day, the gym was set for the big award show. Banners, balloons, a podium the PTA mom had polished. Camden was slated for valedictorian and a full-ride foundation scholarship. The school board president, his mother, sat front row, camera ready. I asked for 5 minutes at the top for a cybersecurity PSA. The principal said later. I said now. I showed the graph of midnight edits, each dot dropping like a heart monitor. I explained how grade integrity works and how fragile it is. Then I put up the one frame. You could hear the bleachers inhale. His mom stood up, face white, and said my name like a curse. The principal reached for the clicker. I held it tighter than my patience. Camden walked up, not to the podium, but to the mic on the floor. He was shaking hard enough to rattle the stand. I did it, he said. I thought I had to keep up. I thought I could fix the hard parts. He looked at his mom. You said I deserved it. He looked at his AP Chem teacher. I didn't. The twist hit in less than an hour. The board called an emergency session. Her mother accused herself and then refused to leave. The vice chair gavelled anyway. They stripped Camden's valedictorian title and suspended him for the remainder of the semester. More importantly, they voided the grading changes and offered teachers independent audits. One math teacher cried with relief you could feel from the back row. 2 months later, at the rescheduled ceremony, the new valedictorian, quiet kid who tutored under the bleachers, read a speech about friction making fire. Camden sat with his father at the top of the stands. His mom lost her board seat to a librarian who campaigned on boring fairness. Camden emailed me a week after graduation. He was taking a gap year and asked where to start with CompTIA A+. I sent him a syllabus and a warning. The rules don't care how golden you are, but they will teach you if you let them.
Story 14. I'm a wildlife biologist in a western state where elk move like tides and people act like they own them. The governor's nephew, Hunter, yes, really, was a conservation influencer. Camo, truck, drone shots, captions about harvesting with respect. He also found himself near no-hunt zones with astonishing frequency. Wardens would catch a hint of a quad in the wrong drainage and find him on the right side of a fence, smiling. Infractions slid off him like water off a duck. Family helps. We radio collar elk every fall to map migration. One cow, #A13, became a bit of a legend. She led cabs through a highway underpass that saved dozens. We named her Sable. Her collar had a new module, a tiny camera that woke only when she ran, capturing 15-second bursts. We wanted to see what spooked her. In January, Sable bolted twice hard. The camera woke. We pulled the data in March and watched on a laptop with mud on its keys. The first clip, a snow machine cutting too close in a motorized closed area, spraying Sable with powder. The second, a man stepping into frame with a bow, no orange, no tag visible, whisper chanting, "Come on, come on." He wore a face mask and a branded beanie I recognized from Instagram. The bow had a custom riser etched with a pattern in the shape of a state outline bisected by antlers, Hunter's logo. He took a shot, the arrow nicked a branch. Sable's camera caught his face for one frame when he pulled the mask down to curse. We brought the footage to the warden captain. He's seen every trick. He watched, said nothing, rewound, still nothing. The hard part wasn't the evidence. It was the politics. He sent 2 wardens to Hunter's ranch anyway. When they asked for his bow to verify serial etching, he posted an angry video about jackbooted bureaucrats trying to cancel tradition. His aunt, the governor's sister, shared it. We requested a hearing. The courtroom smelled like wood polish and winter coats left over the radiator. Hunter arrived with an attorney who wore camo cufflinks. He claimed deepfakes. The judge looked weary. Then the prosecutor put up stills not from the collar cam, but from his own content. A behind-the-scenes reel showing his bowsmith engraving that exact riser pattern, time-stamped months before. A forensic analyst matched the etching micro-scratches to the frame from Sable's collar.
In the back row, an old hunter with a hat pulled low said softly, "Takes a village to raise a liar." The twist wasn't the fine or the license suspension. That's math. The judge added 200 hours of community service, not to a generic nonprofit, but to our highway underpass patrol. Dawn shifts, cold and boring, counting elk. First week out, Hunter stood with a clicker as Sable led calves through, collar blinking green. He didn't film. He asked me, quietly, how collars work. I showed him the map of her route, pixel by pixel. Months later, he posted again, not a hero shot, just a graph of elk crossings increasing with a caption, "I was part of the problem. I want to be part of the fix." Comments were half rage, half surprise. Sable didn't care. She moved when the sage told her to, not when a nephew did.